Today will be providing preliminary information, including details of what led up to the officer-involved shooting and death of Robert Seth Carter on Wednesday, January 19th, at the intersection of Heading and Park Avenue in San Jose. Before I begin, I would like to say that any loss of life is tragic, and my thoughts and prayers are with the Carter family and our community during this time. This incident began at approximately 6 p.m. on January 19th when our police helicopter, Air 3, located a stolen Toyota Camry in the area of Story and King Roads. When the driver of the Camry observed marked patrol vehicles enter that area, the Camry fled and began driving erratically in opposing lanes of traffic on surface streets. Police units on the ground did not pursue the Camry. The driver of the stolen vehicle, or the stolen Toyota Camry, was later identified as Robert Seth Carter. Falling from the air, Air 3 observed Carter drive onto northbound Highway 280 towards downtown San Jose. The vehicle drove through Columbus Park and then onto Highway 880, exiting on the Alameda and into the city of Santa Clara. While Carter was driving southbound on Monroe, he pulled up next to a single occupant sitting in a stopped vehicle who had the driver's door of their car open. Carter approached the driver of that stopped car and pointed a gun at them. The driver exited the car and ran away as Carter entered the new vehicle, in what appears in the video from Air 3 to be an attempted carjacking. The victim of that attempted carjacking was interviewed shortly after the incident and confirmed what we had seen from the Air 3 video. Carter was unable to drive off in the carjacked vehicle and abandoned it and re-entered the original stolen Camry and drove away. As Carter entered the intersection of Park and Heading, he collided with another vehicle that was occupied by a driver and a passenger. Trapped inside his now disabled vehicle, Carter exited through the passenger window and ran north on Park Avenue, holding a gun in his hand and also carrying a backpack. Carter then ran on the west side of Park Avenue and appears to try to stop a passing car by pointing the gun at the vehicle. That vehicle was traveling southbound on Park Avenue, while at the same time, an officer was approaching from the opposite direction. Carter then fired a round in the direction of the passing vehicle and the approaching officer. The officer returned fire. The motorist and officer were not hit by Carter's gunfire, and Carter continued running through a parking lot towards Heading Street with a gun in his hand. The next officer that arrived was driving eastbound on Heading. He stopped his vehicle when he saw the suspect on Heading Street and immediately exited his patrol car. Carter pointed his gun at the officer. The officer fired his weapon at Carter, striking him at least once. Video evidence shows Carter pointing the handgun directly at the officer. Carter maintained possession of the handgun after being struck and moved onto the front yard of a home at the corner of Heading and Burrell Court. 3 additional officers arrived at that location to assist. The 3 additional officers observed the suspect still holding the handgun and pointing it at the officer who had just contacted Carter. Each officer fired their weapon at least one time. 4 officers in total fired their weapons. Carter continued to hold the handgun and was struck more than once by the officer's round. When Carter fell to the ground, the handgun was still next to his hand. A Santa Clara County Sheriff's Deputy K-9 unit arrived on scene, and the K-9 was deployed to separate Carter from the handgun. The K-9 bit Carter's leg and pulled him away from the handgun. Officers handcuffed Carter and began to provide first aid until relieved by medical personnel. Carter was transported by ambulance to a local hospital. Shortly after arriving, he was pronounced deceased. There are 4 involved officers in this shooting. All officers were equipped with body-worn camera that were utilized during the incident. All the officers are CIT trained. All officers have been placed on paid routine administrative leave. The officers' names will not be released at this time, but will do so at a later time in accordance with PC Penal Code 832. A joint criminal investigation by the Santa Clara District Attorney's Office and the San Jose Police Department's Homicide Unit is underway. This case is being monitored by the San Jose Department's Internal Affairs Unit, the City Attorney's Office, and the Office of the Independent Police Auditor. The determination of whether the shooting was lawful and justified will come from the District Attorney upon completion of their investigation. As with all officer-involved shootings, we will be releasing a community briefing video of the incident in the coming weeks as dictated by AB 748. In addition to body-worn camera video, much of this incident was captured by video cameras in our police helicopter, surveillance camera footage from residents in the area as well. The handgun recovered from the suspect at the scene is an unserialized 9mm privately made firearm, also known as a ghost gun. Ghost guns are illegal to be possessed by anyone. Carter is prohibited from possessing any firearm due to prior felony convictions. Carter is a San Jose resident, currently had 5 felony warrants for his arrest, and is on probation for battery. The thorough investigation that is currently being conducted will reveal additional details about this event in the coming days and weeks. This is an unfortunate conclusion to a series of crimes and violence that without question could have ended with additional loss of life to both uninvolved members of the public and to our officers who bravely contacted Carter. This was a traumatic incident for everyone involved, for the surviving family of Mr. Carter, for the involved officers who have families to get home to, and for our community who witnessed a gunfire and who were shot at. This is our first officer-involved shooting of 2022. And before taking any questions, I will share some still images from our helicopter's camera system.
Again, I'm going to email you guys all these photos so you have it.
Okay, any questions?
What possibly was the motive in all of this? I'm talking to the family, or what was the mental state?
We do not know that. I know we've been in contact with someone who, a woman who stated that she was Mr. Carter's mother. We were unable to meet this morning for some unknown reason. And at this point, yeah, we don't know what the motive is, but it's clear his actions that evening, where he attempted to carjack a vehicle and shot at our officers.
Can you talk about how the ground patrol officers gave up the chase and then transferred that to the helicopter, and then what motivated them to get back into the ground chase later?
First of all, there was no chase. This was a stolen vehicle that the officers were alerted to. They were in the area. And again, they did not pursue the camera. It wasn't until information by the helicopter was provided to the ground units where the vehicle was possibly at. And that's why the officers were in that area.
Is that standard the way San Jose does it? If there is, if the helicopter is up
Sure, our policy is if we're in pursuit of a felony vehicle or felony person, and if the helicopter is on duty and available, the helicopter is the one that supersedes and takes over anything to identify the individuals or the vehicle. That's our policy. For safety. For safety. There was a question over here.
Good?
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the unsuccessful carjacking in terms of like how was it that he wasn't able to do that? Did the driver fight back?
That's an incident that's being investigated by the Santa Clara Police Department because it happened in their jurisdiction, and that's still under their it's under their jurisdiction. They're investigating that. Based on the video, all we know is that the suspect pointed the firearm at the occupant, the driver.
Chief, can you talk about the ghost gun? And I know that from your CIO's office, they're talking about a lot of seizures that officers are making on the street. Talk about how the proliferation of these weapons that are out there right now.
Sure, yes. During the last several years, we've seen an increase in the use of ghost guns or the possession of ghost guns. Our officers have seized numerous ghost guns out on the street by their proactivity. Last year, we seized over 900 firearms, illegal firearms, and which is for me, been here over 25 years, is a record number in gun seizures. A majority of those were ghost guns, and that's something that is not only an issue here in San Jose, this county, this state, but throughout the nation. We're seeing an increase in the use and possession of the privately made firearms or the ghost guns, which are illegal.
And this weapon that's up on the wall here, that is a decidedly made weapon?
Yes, based on our initial investigation, yes it is, which is unserialized.
Are these ghost guns being manufactured, you think, in this area? Because you said you took off 900 plus guns off the streets last year. So are they being manufactured here in the South Bay or Bay Area, or are they being brought in from outside and is there a way to disrupt the supply chain?
Yeah, I don't have that information where they're being made at. And just to be clear, we seized over 900 guns. Some of them were ghost guns. We are in talks right now to collaborate with the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to work on that issue to determine where they're coming from. Again, we have made some arrests with people possessing these type of weapons.
Can you specify how many exchanges of narcotic weapons?
At least 2. Yeah.
And how was the vehicle determined to be stolen?
When victims of a stolen vehicle have their vehicle stolen, they report it to any police department, and it's entered into a system that officers can utilize to identify if a vehicle is stolen or not.
Good?
Okay, thank you.
Before you guys leave, just want to let you guys know, City Council Member Deb Davis is here. This incident occurred in her district. Council Member, I don't know if you want to take any questions or make a quick statement. It's up to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Councilmember Deb Davis. This happened in my district. And I'm here today to take questions, but also because we heard from the residents after this incident, and they are very grateful that no one was harmed in the neighborhood, and the officers acted very quickly. And they're very grateful to the police department for acting so quickly. As the chief said, any loss of life is tragic, and we're glad that there wasn't more injury or harm that happened through this incident. Thank you. Yes.
Crime out in a lot of places in the Bay Area and the South Bay, but Rose Garden is typically pretty event-free. Is this shaken the residents with your constituents?
I think anytime any kind of violent crime happens in anyone's neighborhood, it's very, it's earth-shattering for that neighborhood, whether it happens on a regular basis or an infrequent basis. But certainly, all the neighbors are concerned, but they're also very grateful to the police department for acting so quickly and for the officers' bravery.
You good? All right, thank you.